I got sucked into a world straight out of a cheesy romance novel. Only I ended up as the all-powerful CEO calling the shots. I just gotten the board stabilized, and now my personal life was going insane. Some audacious intern tried the old damsel in distress fall into my arms, got shoved into the rooftop pool for her trouble, and then started screaming that she was the main character, and I needed to jump in and save her. The new VP I just hired was demanding I be exclusively devoted to her, telling me to fire my wife and every other female executive, otherwise she wouldn't sleep with me. Even my wife, the queen of this corporate castle, had lost it. She was demanding we become cosis, rule the company together, said it was a matter of feeling secure. Was this world completely unhinged, or did everyone just think I was a pushover? Why was every single one of them acting like they'd lost their minds? You think just because the lion's quiet, it's a house cat? Too bad for them. I'm a rational man. My signature move is the corporate equivalent of salting the earth. The Thorn Protocol, a full-spectrum professional and social annihilation. One man's tragedy is another's opportunity, I guess. 1 minute I was kicking back with a beer and some wings, doom scrolling through TikTok, and the next I was ice-skied into a world that ran on the logic of a bad CW drama. I went from being some average guy to Julian Thorn, the CEO of Ethel Corp, a man with the power to make or break careers with a single word. Power over the markets by day, the company of beautiful women by night. It's the kind of simple, unpretentious life I could really get used to. Except, there was always someone trying to challenge my authority, which was becoming a real headache. The company was finally on stable footing after a hostile takeover attempt, but my personal life was a dumpster fire. It was one of those perfect New York days, sunny and breezy, the kind that makes you feel like you're on top of the world. With the market finally trending our way, I was in a great mood. The top female execs in the company had been vying for my attention, so I agreed to join them for a mixer in the Eiffel Tower's rooftop garden. The atmosphere was relaxed, the conversation flowing, and that's when it happened. A young intern, acting like her bones had turned to jelly, saw me admiring the view over the infinity pool. As I got closer, she swayed and began to fall, aiming directly for my arms. "Oh, Mr. Thorn, I feel so dizzy." Her voice was a breathy, calculated purr, and she even tried to shoot me a seductive look. However, insolent. "How dare you assault the CEO? Marcus Cole," my head of security and a man who moved with the eerie silence of a predator, roared as he sprang into action. Before the intern could even touch the fabric of my suit, his foot connected with her midsection and sent her flying. Splash! The ambitious intern went headfirst into the pool, sending up a huge spray of water. "Ah, glug, help glug me," she thrashed and choked, swallowing a good amount of chlorinated water. Without my order, who would dare jump in to save her? The commotion drew everyone's attention. Susan Hayes, a senior VP who usually kept a low profile, recognized the flailing figure and gasped, "Crystal, what are you doing in the pool?" The intern, Crystal Meadows, was a piece of work. After a dramatic struggle for her life, she suddenly stopped. She stood up, sputtering, and realized the water was only waist deep. But she didn't get out. Instead, she pointed an accusing finger, her voice shrill with indignation. "I was just a little lightheaded. I was only going to lean on Mr. Thorn's shoulder for a second. And that goon of his kicked me into the pool. Ma'am, you have to do something. You have to fire that disgusting creep right now." A stunned silence fell over the rooftop garden. You could hear a pin drop. Had this Crystal Meadows completely lost her mind? Mr. Thorn's shoulder was something an intern could just lean on? Did she get water on the brain? Did she really just try to order around her own boss, a senior vice president? And she did it right in front of the CEO, demanding he fire his most trusted head of security? Were the new interns really this clueless? Susan's face went pale, then dark with fury. Seeing the ice-cold look on my face as I stared at Crystal, she dropped to her knees in a gesture of pure corporate panic. "Mr. Thorn, my deepest apologies. I had no idea she would do this. This is a failure of my management. For Crystal to have accosted you, it's my responsibility. Please, punish me as you see fit. This girl seemed so bright and capable when we hired her. I never imagined she was so reckless. I will not let this stand." Susan scrambled to distance herself, a murderous rage for the idiotic Intern simmering in her eyes. "Too, Susan, how could you?" Crystal shrieked from the pool. "Forget about firing that gun. Now you're blaming me? Are you all serious right now? I'm the victim here. I'm the one who got kicked into a pool. Is there any justice? Are there no laws against this?" Crystal was hysterical, and despite the chill, she jabbed a finger at me and Susan, letting loose a torrent of accusations. Watching this pathetic display, I felt my ultimate power stirring. "The Thorn Protocol, scorched earth. Get her out of there," I ordered, my voice dangerously low. "I want to see for myself if her head is as thick as it seems. Who gave her the audacity to be this arrogant?" Marcus bowed his head slightly. "Yes, sir." Just then, Crystal heard my order and seemed to find a new surge of defiant energy. "Don't even try it, you creep," she screamed. "Playing hard to get won't work on me. If it wasn't for Rex's master plan, you think I'd ever give you the time of day? You're just a pathetic beta side character in my story. You will never have my love. Do you hear me? I am the main character, the chosen one. I wouldn't look twice at a simp like you. Now, I'll give you one chance to win my affection. Jump in here and save me." Now what? I was playing hard to get. This delusional intern, Crystal Meadows, was the main character, and I, Julian Thorn, the man who ran this empire, was just her beta side character. I could never earn the love of an intern. A soon-to-be fired intern wouldn't look twice at me, and I was supposed to jump into a pool in front of all my top executives to rescue her, and that would grant me the opportunity to pursue her. What kind of twisted logic was that? Did she not understand the concept of being fired? Of being professionally annihilated? This was pure insubordination. All right, I remember now. I was in a world that ran on romance novel logic. In their minds, love conquered all. The most terrifying threats in their arsenal were, "I don't love you anymore. I'm ignoring you, and I'll never forgive you." No wonder she was so bizarre. But I'm a rational CEO. I don't give a damn about melodramatic fantasies. You know you're either speechless or incandescent with rage when you start to laugh. A cold, humorless laugh escaped my lips. "Insolent!" I roared. The single word cracked through the air like a whip. Everyone present flinched, their faces draining of color as they bowed their heads, not daring to breathe. Even Marcus, who had been about to move, froze and immediately knelt. The fury of a king can topple empires. It's a simple concept, thousands of years old. But in this romance novel world, it seemed the rules didn't apply. The audacious intern, Crystal Meadows, still held her head high, a sneer twisting her lips. "You think acting all cool and mysterious will get my attention, you sad little man? Pathetic. I'm telling you, it's not going to work. I'm the main character, not one of the shallow bimbos you keep around this office. No matter how much a beta tries to show off, he's still just a stepping stone for the true hero's rise to power. You're just pitiful." Me? What in God's name was she rambling about? Did getting kicked into the pool flood her brain with too much water? Wait a minute. Did she just give a crooked smile? Was she trying to be some kind of action hero? Fine. I'll be the one to wipe that smirk right off her face. From everything she'd said and done, I had to wonder, was she actually the protagonist of this world story? Proclaiming herself the main character, spewing nonsense poisoned by 1,000 bad romance plots. I was certain of one thing. She was a transmigrator just like me. But a moment ago, a casual kick from Marcus was enough to send her flying. That meant this nutcase in turn had no self-defense skills, let alone any other special abilities. Firing her would be easy. Ruining her and everyone associated with her would be even easier. But having been dropped into this bizarre, insane world, I couldn't afford to leave any loose ends or potential threats. I needed to know what she was counting on and who this Rex she kept mentioning was. "Marcus, her mouth is filthy," I said calmly. "Slap it clean. I want to see just how long that filthy mouth of hers can stay tough." Marcus rose, his orders received, and moved like a shadow across the water surface. "What are you doing, you psycho?" Crystal shrieked. "Get your disgusting hands off me, or I'll sue you for sexual harassment." "Let go of me." "Aya, wait, don't let go, I'll fall." He snatched her from the water and returned in a blur of motion. Crystal, soaked and terrified, was airborne for a moment before she was unceremoniously dropped onto the deck. Thud. The next second, before she could even cry out in pain, Marcus was in front of her, his face a cold, merciless mask. He moved like lightning. The force was immense. Crack! Crystal didn't even have time to scream before she was sent flying sideways. Her right cheek instantly swelled, a bloody handprint already forming. Aha! A sound like a slaughtered pig erupted from her as she spat out a mouthful of blood and broken teeth. Smack! She had barely hit the ground when Marcus appeared on her other side, delivering an identical backhand to her left cheek. Aha! More blood, more teeth. This time, she flew like a broken doll and landed back in the pool. Glug, ah, glug. Help, glug. She was in so much pain and so disoriented that she'd forgotten the water wasn't deep. She thrashed wildly, swallowing even more water. When she finally managed to stand up again, she looked like a drowned rat. Her left cheek was just as swollen, now smeared with a bloody, muddy handprint. You psycho CEO. You monster. You hit a woman. If this were my world, I'd have you canceled so fast your head would spin. You have no respect for women. Ugh, you give me the ick. Even with her face beaten to a pulp, Crystal Meadows was still spewing defiant curses. And so, Marcus continued. He hadn't received an order to stop. He was a machine, programmed for destruction. He didn't have the parts or the patience for romance novel melodrama. Without my command, everyone else remained kneeling, forced to watch this brutal display. Wah, stop. It hurts so much, Mr. Thorn. Tell him to stop. I accept your advances, okay? I'll let you pursue me. But if you ever want me to love you, you have to have this monster tortured and killed. She was begging for mercy, but still framing it in her delusional terms. I was getting tired of this pathetic act. I almost preferred her when she was arrogant and defiant. Stop. If I didn't call him off, Marcus was going to literally beat her to death. With his strength and ruthless efficiency, that was a real possibility. But I still needed to interrogate her for more useful information. For instance, this Rex she spoke of so fondly was probably the male lead of this story. Who was he? Where was he? What was his hostile takeover plan? And since Crystal was a transmigrator, did she have any allies? There was only room for one transmigrator in this world, and that was me. Marcus dragged Crystal out of the pool like a sack of wet garbage and threw her on the ground in front of me. She was a complete wreck, but her expression was still bizarrely confident. She forced her swollen head up to glare at me from her place on the floor. As if accepting a bitter defeat, she mumbled, "Okay, you win. I'll accept your advances. I'll be your favorite." It's almost funny, she slurred through broken teeth. I, Crystal Meadows, have read so many billionaire romance novels, watched all the shows. I'm the main character, the chosen one. And to think I'd end up falling into the hands of a pathetic beta side character. The simp gets the girl? How ridiculous is that? Her unhinged rambling left everyone speechless. Her own boss, Susan Hayes, looked like she was about to faint from sheer terror. This was truly the mind of a deranged protagonist. Even in this state, her brain was still fixated on love and romance, as if her life wasn't more important than some fantasy plotline. In my eyes, she was already a dead woman. Marcus, take this clueless intern to the Internal Affairs Division in the sub-basement. I want her puppet master and all of her accomplices identified and brought to me. All of them. My gaze then swept over the female executives, finally landing on the pale face of Susan Hayes. Susan, due to your poor judgment and failure to manage your subordinate, you are demoted from senior VP to director. Your annual bonus is forfeited. Let this be a lesson to everyone here, including my wife. If anything like this ever happens again, the consequences will be severe. Susan, though wronged, knew better than to argue. I understand, Mr. Thorn. I accept my mistake, and I am grateful for your leniency, she stammered. She had been a victim of circumstance, dragged down by a delusional intern. A 3-level demotion was a brutal blow. I had no doubt she now wanted to personally strangle Crystal Meadows. My wife and the other executives all bowed their heads. We will remember this lesson, Mr. Thorn. One of the security guards had already silenced Crystal by stuffing a dirty sock in her mouth, ending her insane ranting. After all that, I'd lost my appetite for the mixer. What a waste of a perfect day. You're all dismissed, I said, turning and walking away without another word. 5 down in the sterile, windowless rooms of the Internal Affairs Division, the head of corporate security, Leo Roth, conducted his interrogation of Crystal Meadows. Before transmigrating, Crystal had been an arrogant keyboard warrior, a self-important nobody. She couldn't handle the pressure of a real interrogation. She confessed everything. She even spilled all the dirt from her past life, admitting to doxing and starting vicious online cancellation campaigns against multiple people. Leo Roth reported back to me, his expression a mixture of confusion and disgust. "Sir, it's unbelievable. She's another transmigrator. That's the 8th one so far. Her entire family is involved. They've been colluding with Rex Power, the CEO of Apex Dynamics. They were planning a coordinated corporate and technological assault to bankrupt us and seize control of the company." Crystal's confession included the entire plot of the story, the identity of the male lead, Rex Power, and how her family was secretly funding his operation, providing him with insider information and resources. "Since she's a transmigrator, does she have any special skills?" I asked. The previous ones had some gimmick. One was a chemistry genius who could refine materials. Another could write code like a machine. One was an expert in explosives. Even if this was a romance novel world, a transmigrator should have something to offer. Leo scoffed. "Sir, her head is filled with nothing but romantic fantasies. She's useless. She convinced her entire family to commit corporate treason for love. She wanted to be with this Rex Power in what she called a one true pairing for life. She kept screaming that I don't understand love, and that you don't understand love either, sir. The woman is completely insane. What a truly unhinged world." The self-proclaimed main character, Crystal Meadows, didn't even possess the basic common sense of a transmigrator. A worthless liability. Ethel Corp's security and legal teams moved swiftly. Crystal's family was ruined, their assets frozen, their company buried in lawsuits. Meanwhile, I gave Marcus a secret directive. He took a team of 10 of my best operatives and flew to Silicon Valley. He met quietly with the grizzled chairman of the tech consortium there, a man named General Peterson, and gave him my message. Together, they planned to excise Rex Power's influence. At an exclusive tech conference gala, Marcus and his team cornered Rex Power. After a brief but decisive struggle, he was subdued and taken into custody. Simultaneously, General Peterson's own security forces detained every executive and engineer who was in on Power's scheme. The operation was surgical and silent, preventing a full-blown market panic. Rex Power and his co-conspirators were completely dismantled. He was flown back to New York, where he and Crystal Meadows would face the full, crushing weight of corporate justice together. In the end, I unleashed the Thorn Protocol, scorched earth. The families of both Rex Power and Crystal Meadows were utterly destroyed, their reputations shattered, their wealth erased, and their names blacklisted from every corner of the industry. After that incident, I thought the madness in my life might finally return to some semblance of normal. However, I had severely underestimated the insanity of this romance novel world. Spring had arrived, and with it, a certain restlessness. Tonight, I decided to pay a visit to Isabel Vance. She was the brilliant new VP my board had insisted I hire. So far, however, she had been a romance-obsessed flake who had yet to do any actual work. I didn't get it. Why hire a VP and not have her, do her job? Was she just supposed to be a decorative object? Unacceptable. I was furious. There would be consequences. I headed straight for her penthouse apartment, which the company provided. 6, Julian? What are you doing here again? Until you agree to my terms, this isn't going to happen. Isabel Vance, the new VP, saw me at her door and scowled, her face a mask of cold disapproval. Any other executive would be thrilled by an unexpected visit from the CEO, a sign of favor. They'd be warm, welcoming, charming. But not Isabel. The very idea of a late-night meeting seemed to annoy her. Her terms? What terms? Since I'd arrived in this world, I've been busy restructuring the board, fending off hostile takeovers, and dealing with delusional transmigrators. I didn't have the time or the energy to remember the petulant demands of one VP. "Oh," I asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Remind me, what terms were those?" My casual attitude seemed to infuriate her. She jabbed a finger at me. Don't you play dumb with me, Julian. Is this your idea of sincerity? I just stared, a blinking question mark. I genuinely had no idea what she was talking about. Seeing my blank expression, her face crumpled in theatrical despair. I knew it. Everything you said before was a lie. You're not my soulmate after all. Then, her gaze hardened with resolve as she repeated her demands. Until you fire your wife and every other female executive on the board and promise to devote yourself exclusively to me, I will never sleep with you. I, Isabel Vance, do not compromise my principles. I want a one true pairing for life. I will only be with my soulmate. Excuse me? Those were her terms? I glanced down at my custom-tailored suit, then back at her designer dress. I was fairly certain this was the modern world. I was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. How dare she make such an outrageous demand? Fire my wife? Fire the entire female executive board? For no reason? Just to be exclusively with her? A brand new hire? I would become a laughingstock in the Wall Street Journal, a modern-day cautionary tale about a fool who threw away his empire for a woman. Not to mention, the families and connections of those board members would launch an all-out war against me. I laughed coldly. If you're so unwilling to do what's necessary for your career, why did you even take the job here? Isabel lifted her chin, her expression radiating an insane level of self-confidence. With my talents, only the position of COO would be a fitting match. And since everyone says the CEO of Ethel Corp is the most powerful man in the world, I agreed to my family's arrangement and took the job. The next second, my eyes narrowed. I stared at her, a humorless smirk playing on my lips. So according to you, if I don't devote myself exclusively to you, that means I'm not your soulmate. Without a moment's hesitation, she nodded firmly. I am destined to be the COO of this company, and my soulmate would certainly be devoted only to me. We are meant to be a one true pairing for life. She wanted my exclusive devotion, and she wanted the power of the C-suite. The audacity was breathtaking. On what grounds? If you're so supremely confident in your own supposed excellence, why do you need me, the CEO, to hand you that power? But I'm a rational man, not some love-struck idiot from a romance novel. Isabel Vance, you have just signed your own professional death warrant. 7. Isabel, who am I? You're the CEO, and what if I refuse to agree to your so-called terms? Then I, Isabel Vance, will never agree to sleep with you. I am the CEO. I know that. So what? I'm saying I am the CEO. I heard you. I'm not deaf. I know you're the CEO. I took a deep, steadying breath. I'm the CEO of this entire goddamn corporation. Stop repeating yourself. What does being the CEO matter? Does that mean you can just ignore my terms? Me? I was sure of it now. This was another protagonist. Another one who was completely out of her mind. It felt like I was trying to communicate with a being from another dimension. We weren't even speaking the same language. Marcus, my head of security, who had been waiting silently in the hall, immediately opened the door. Sir, your orders? I pointed at the arrogant, defiant face of Isabel Vance and gave the command in a voice dripping with fury. Reassign Ms. Vance to the sub-basement. Data entry. She is to be given only the most basic, menial tasks. She will have no staff and no authority. Since she claims to be so excellent, she can start by proving her worth there. If she can't handle data entry, have her clean the company cafeteria. Hearing my verdict, Isabel completely lost her composure. She stomped her foot in protest. I'm the daughter of a Vanderbilt. I'm a debutante. I can't do that kind of demeaning work. You're the CEO, and you're arguing with a woman? What kind of man are you? If you dare to humiliate me like this, don't ever expect my forgiveness. Oomph. I will never love you now. What? Did she just question my manhood? Fine. Excellent. Another one with a death wish. You're about to find out exactly what kind of man I am. Marcus, you can wait outside. As Marcus exited and closed the door, I swung my hand and delivered a stinging slap across her face. Crack. Isabel clutched her red, burning cheek, her eyes wide with disbelief. My temper was running hot. The next second, I swept her off her feet. An hour later. Phew. Much better. I straightened my clothes and opened the door to leave. Isabel was a weeping mess on the bed, still shouting her nonsense. What's so great about being the CEO? Does it give you the right to be a domineering brute? Fine, I'm your employee. I have a duty to help this company succeed. But you didn't agree to my terms of exclusive devotion. So what gives you the right to make me sleep with you? If you don't fire your wife and all the other women, I'm never speaking to you again, Humph. Unbelievable. She clearly understood her position on some level, yet she was still trying to have it both ways. A moment ago, when I'd simply threatened to fire her and send her back to her family in disgrace, she had been more than willing to cooperate, terrified of losing her shot at power. She had originally sworn she would never sleep with me unless I was exclusively hers. And yet, after tonight, she started acting as if it were a badge of honor. She became even more difficult, causing endless trouble even after being demoted. Whether she was in data entry or cleaning the cafeteria, she brandished her one night with me like a weapon, acting high and mighty. Every time she saw me, she would create a scene, demanding I fire my wife and the other executives. She quickly became the most hated person in the entire corporate hierarchy. Then, on the day quarterly reports were due, I received some grim news. Isabel Vance was dead. Sir, Ms. Vance committed suicide in her apartment. I paused, looking up from my desk at Marcus. Suicide? Isabel, the entire executive board could kill themselves, and she still wouldn't. It's not in her nature. Marcus nodded grimly. I agree, sir. But the scene was staged to look that way. She was found hanging. There was even a note. He handed me a letter, the paper stained with what looked like dried tears. The note was a rambling tirade about how she, Isabel Vance, had always striven for excellence, yet was denied the exclusive devotion she deserved. She couldn't bear the humiliation of her demotion, nor the fact that I, the CEO, wouldn't grant her simple request to be my one and only. I had disappointed her. Life was no longer worth living. The tone of the letter certainly sounded like her. But based on my months of dealing with her, I knew that no one craved power and exclusive attention more than she did. She was the type of person who would stop at nothing to get what she wanted, constantly trying to turn her weaknesses into leverage. Isabel Vance valued her own life above all else. She would never have killed herself, which meant one thing. She was murdered. I knew that in this romance novel world, backstabbing and drama were part of the main plot. But I was the one in charge. If Isabel Vance was to be eliminated, I would be the one to give the order, not someone else in my company taking matters into their own hands. This was a direct challenge to my authority. Marcus, someone murdered her and made it look like a suicide, I said, my voice cold as steel. Find them. I want a full investigation. I don't care who it is. I will not tolerate this. Marcus's expression hardened. He bowed his head. Yes, sir. I stood and walked to the window, looking out over the city. That pain in the ass, Isabel Vance, must have been another transmigrator. She just played her hand so recklessly, spouting her nonsensical psychobabble, that she ended up getting herself killed. She never even got a chance to use whatever transmigrator advantage she had, never got the COO position she dreamed of. And now she was dead. The ongoing tech war with our rivals in the north was already causing enough chaos. Today, a VP dies. Tomorrow, who knew what would happen? That evening, Marcus appeared in my office. Sir, we have a lead. But the person it points to, it could involve. I frowned, my patience wearing thin. Involve what? Stop stammering, Marcus. Sensing my anger, he didn't hesitate any longer. Sir, Isabel Vance's death, it may be connected to your wife, Eleanor. What? Eleanor? I was stunned. As the First Lady of Ethel Corp., my wife had always been the epitome of grace, dignity, and poise. When that delusional intern Crystal Meadows caused that scene, Eleanor had privately asked me to be lenient with Susan Hayes. When Isabel Vance was making a fool of herself, even directly telling Eleanor that her position would one day be hers, Eleanor's response was measured. She had simply let her personal assistant slap Isabel 20 times. My wife was smart, strategic, and a master of corporate politics. If she wanted to get rid of someone, she wouldn't be this clumsy about it. How could Marcus have found a lead in less than a day? It was almost as if she wasn't my real wife at all. 9. Speak of the devil. Eleanor, who almost never came to my office, chose today of all days to make a surprise visit. She sauntered in, a coy, swaying walk I'd never seen before, and purred with a saccharine smile. Julian, ugh. It was like she was a completely different person. That soft, cloying, vocal fry-laden voice sent a shiver down my spine and made the hairs on my arm stand up. Even Marcus, standing stoically beside me, a man without an emotional pulse, visibly flinched. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The Eleanor I knew was always composed and formal in public. Even in the privacy of our bedroom, she was reserved, almost shy. She would never, ever use that kind of flirtatious baby doll voice. Oh God, no. A horrifying thought, born from my experience in this insane romance novel world, struck me. Given my recent track record dealing with these unhinged protagonists, the poised, intelligent woman in front of me was probably just a shell. My real wife's body, possessed by the soul of another transmigrator. My eyes widened in shock. I turned my head and met Marcus's gaze. He was looking at me with the exact same expression of dawning horror. The next second, my face became a mask of cold professionalism. I'm reviewing quarterly reports, Eleanor. What is it? This new Eleanor was a master actress. Her eyes immediately welled with tears. Why are you being so cold, Julian? Can't I come see my own husband just because I miss you? I just wanted to see you. Fine. If you don't want me here, I'll just go. Wah. You've hurt my feelings so much, she turned, her shoulders slumping in a picture of manufactured misery, and began to walk away, casting a heartbreaking, teary-eyed glance back at me. She moved with the dramatic slowness of a wounded kitten. Holy hell, this was a professional. Unlike Crystal's blunt force idiocy or Isabel's arrogant self-obsession, this new Eleanor was a potent combination of manipulative victim and seductive siren. A true master of her craft. If the original, love-struck version of Julian Thorn were here, he would have been putty in her hands. But I'm a rational CEO. In my world, all these mentally unstable protagonists are nothing but paper tigers. Still, for now, I needed to play along. I had to figure out what her angle was and what kind of leverage she thought she had. I had a rare second chance at life as a man of immense power. I wasn't about to lose it all by underestimating some lunatic in this crazy world. First, caution, then domination. She was supposedly leaving in tears, but her feet were moving slower than a snail. Even though she was a soul-swapped impostor, she was still, publicly, my wife. And behind her stood the formidable power of her family. The Vanderbilts, one of the founding families of American industry. Her father was still the chairman of the board. Marcus's investigation had already linked her to Isabel's murder. But without concrete proof, I couldn't make a move against her. I put on my best corporate smile. Eleanor, of course I'm moved that you're always thinking of me. But these reports are critical. The company comes first. If there's nothing urgent, perhaps you could go home? Once I'm finished here, I'll meet you back at the penthouse. It was as if she hadn't heard a word. Her eyes, shimmering with unshed tears, locked onto mine. Then, out of nowhere, she asked, Julian, do you love me? How much? Me, underline Marcus, underline Desi was completely blind-seated. Again, and of course my stoic, unfeeling head of security was just as baffled. The first lady of the corporation comes to my office, not to discuss business, not to talk about the dead VP, but to ask if I love her. Can someone please explain the thought process here? You're the prime suspect in a murder investigation that your husband, personally ordered. Shouldn't you be here to subtly probe, to see if I suspect you, to play political games? But no, this new Eleanor was here to ask if I love her. And how much? Ugh, this truly was an insane romance novel world. Murder is a minor detail. The only thing that matters is love. Her question left me so stunned I could barely think. I stammered, love? Yes. I suppose so. That's right. However, she wasn't satisfied. She pressed on, her voice trembling with manufactured vulnerability. But how much exactly? Are we talking and I would do anything for you kind of love? I had no idea what kind of scheme she was running, but to uncover her plan, I had to play along. Of course, you're my wife, the public face of this family. I love you a great deal, I said, trying to sound reassuring. I've entrusted you with managing our entire social and philanthropic calendar. That's a sign of immense trust. Isn't that enough? She frowned, a flicker of annoyance crossing her face. No, it's not enough. Not nearly enough. You need to give me more. What? Her words were so audacious, I felt my jaw drop. Queen of New York high society, public face of a corporate empire. Wasn't enough? What more could this impostor possibly want? Her, dumbfounded. Eleanor, what would be enough? What more could I possibly give you? Hearing my question, a sly, triumphant glint appeared in her eyes. Her next words were a direct hit. Julian, you've seen my capabilities. I can not only manage your social lives, but I can also help you with the burdens of running this company. With matters of state, so to speak. So, I was thinking, why don't we have two saints holding court? Why don't we rule this company together as co-CEOs? It would make your life so much easier, and I could finally put my true talents to use. Both Marcus and I were, once again, completely and utterly thunderstruck. Two saints holding court? Co-CEOs? This imposter in my wife's body had the ambition of a modern-day empress. Did she think I was some lovesick fool who would hand over half his empire to his wife? Good. This was very good. Another one with a death wish. This one was the most arrogant of them all. She wanted half of my world. But for her to make such an outrageous demand so openly, she must have some incredible leverage. Was she some kind of super soldier? A master of espionage? Could she take down Marcus, my one-man army, and neutralize my entire security force? At that thought, I instinctively sidestepped, putting Marcus between myself and her. I decided to probe, my voice calm. Eleanor, have you recently acquired some kind of secret technology? A revolutionary algorithm, perhaps? 11 now, it was her turn to be confused. She tilted her head, a frown creasing her brow. Julian, what are you talking about? Secret technology? An algorithm? Are you talking about some kind of new app? I remained cautious, wary of her playing dumb. As a longtime fan of online fiction, I'd seen this scenario 1,000 times. The hero pretending to be weak right before the big reveal. I tried another angle. What I mean is, do you have a secret mentor? Someone incredibly powerful teaching you the secrets of the market? Or maybe a state-sponsored hacker collective at your beck and call? Huh? Me? She looked genuinely baffled, pointing at herself with a bewildered expression. Meanwhile, a spark of interest lit up in Marcus's eyes. As a man who had reached the pinnacle of his profession, he was always bored, always looking for a worthy challenger. The idea of some hidden, god-tier opponent was probably thrilling to him. But then, Eleanor's confusion cleared, replaced by an expression of condescending pity, as if I were a child who still believed in Santa Claus. Julian, there's no such thing as magic in this world. Look at the great innovators. Steve Jobs built a global empire, spent a fortune trying to cure himself with alternative medicine, but in the end, he was just a man. He died. The tech titans of the last century were geniuses, but they all chased some obsession that led to their downfall. They thought they could live forever, that they could hack the system of life itself. But they all died from their own hubris and bad decisions. It's all so tragic, really. Well, this new Eleanor knew her history. Unlike the two previous transmigrators, Crystal and Isabel, who were clueless about everything. They were an embarrassment to the title of transmigrator. So that was it. This imposter's confidence didn't come from some secret power. It came from knowing a few historical anecdotes. She wasn't a master of corporate warfare, not a legendary hacker. Marcus, restrain her. My head of security, his brain still reeling from the bizarre conversation, reacted on pure instinct. He moved in a flash. Ow, Julian, what are you doing? My arm hurts. Tell this goon to let me go. Seeing this new Eleanor shrieking in pain, completely helpless, with no sudden burst of superhuman strength or secret countermoves, I finally relaxed. A physically weak pretender like her, I could handle 10 of her myself. Huh. As long as she wasn't a secret super spy or a state-level threat, there was nothing to worry about. In this insane romance novel world, I was still the one in charge. The tension that had been coiled in my gut finally released. A mocking smile spread across my face. Eleanor, you're not a master strategist, and you're not a legendary hacker. So on what basis did you think you could demand to rule this company with me? Even with her arms pinned behind her back, she held her head high, her voice full of arrogant indignation. Because you love me, giving me this is the least you could do. I replied with a cold, flat refusal. And if I say no, she tossed her head back in a dramatic huff. Oomph. Then I'll never speak to you again. And I'll certainly never love you. 12. Never speak to me again. Never love me again. That was her ultimate weapon. This romance novel world never failed to disappoint. I thought I was dealing with a genuine threat when she demanded to be co-CEO. I was prepared for some kind of high-level gambit. But all came down to this. The two most useless threats imaginable. The imposter was still shouting, "Julian, you just said you loved me. How can you be so cruel and heartless all of a sudden? All I wanted was to help you shoulder the burden. I just asked to be co-CEO. What's so wrong with that? If I were to file for divorce, I'd be entitled to half of your assets anyway, you know. I was only trying to spare your feelings and your reputation by not asking for a divorce, because I know how much you love me. If you don't tell this disgusting goon to let me go right now, I swear I will file for divorce. And when you lose half the company and half your fortune, don't come crying to me." Puffed. Marcus, who was holding her arms, finally broke. He couldn't hold back a snore of laughter. "My apologies, sir. I'm a trained professional. No matter how funny something is, I won't laugh. Unless I absolutely can't help it." To make the perpetually stone-faced, emotionless Marcus Cole crack up, I had to admit, this new Eleanor was a special kind of talent. The next second, ha ha ha, I couldn't help it either. I burst out laughing. The imposter, her arms aching, stared at the man who just professed his love for her, now laughing hysterically. "What are you laughing at?" she shrieked, utterly humiliated. I shrugged nonchalantly. "I just thought of something funny." "Marcus, what were you laughing at?" Marcus, like a perfect echo, replied, "I also thought of something funny, sir." "Aya." The new Eleanor completely lost it. "Stop it. Stop quoting that stupid movie. I saw it before I got stuck in this stupid world. The dialogue was terrible then, and it's terrible now." Still, she wasn't ready to give up. She tried to use her twisted logic to emotionally blackmail me. "Julian, didn't you say you loved me? Is your love that shallow? All I wanted was to share your burdens, to rule beside you. Why are you being so petty, so stingy? That's not how a real man acts. If you're not willing to make even this small sacrifice, what makes you think you deserve my love?" This unhinged world was filled with too many of these irrational lunatics, facing their own destruction, and they're still hung up on some nonsense about love. Another fraud, trying to have it all. She had the ambition of a conquering empress, but none of the cunning or ruthlessness. All she had were her empty words and her ultimate threats. "I'll ignore you, and I won't love you anymore." But I'm a rational CEO. None of that meant anything to me. I thought she was a master player, but she turned out to be just another fool. I had no more time to waste on such a useless person. "Marcus, take her to the holding cell in the sub-basement. Then get my father-in-law on the phone. I want him in my office immediately. I'm very interested to see if the chairman of the board also thinks he deserves half of my company." 13. When the old man, Chairman Vanderbilt, found out what had happened, he had a heart attack on the spot. He survived, but barely. Who could have imagined that a man known for his cautious, almost timid, leadership would have raised a daughter with such reckless, terrifying ambition? This was the woman who was supposed to be the pride of his family, his greatest asset. And now, that dignified, graceful woman was gone, replaced by a mad woman screaming in a holding cell about divorcing the CEO and taking half his empire. After a thorough joint investigation by Marcus and Leo Roth's teams, it was confirmed that the Vanderbilt family was completely unaware of their daughter's sudden change in personality. It made sense. The original Eleanor, a shrewd and intelligent woman from a legacy family, would never have done something so insane, something that would jeopardize her entire lineage. It was a shame she had been replaced by a transmigrator. I had briefly considered sending the imposter to our remote mining operations in Alaska as a little morale boost for the hard-working crews up there. After all, if it was good enough for the Roman generals, it should be good enough for my employees. However, out of respect for the body that had once belonged to the real Eleanor, I gave the order for a more dignified end. I granted her a quiet, private exit. The Vanderbilt family's influence was, of course, significantly curtailed, their shares diluted, and their power on the board neutered. With the queen of the castle now gone, the madness in my personal life finally subsided. I also established a new, highly discreet division within corporate security, the Anomaly Protocol Unit, tasked specifically with identifying and neutralizing these transmigrators. I offered massive rewards for any employee who could successfully report one. In short order, the transmigrator problem was hunted to extinction. I imagine the word got out in whatever dimension these lunatics came from. They heard about the ruthless CEO in this world and decided to find somewhere else to cause their drama. This insane romance novel world had finally been brought to heel. The storm was over. The rain had stopped. The world I'd been dropped into was finally back on track. The end.